that if it is time for me to lay down my body, I will, but all the king's horses and all the king's men cannot bring me down until the time has come. Make yourself God, the 10th chapter of John. And he said, it is written, all of you are gods. He said, I'm no different than you. Everybody's a God. So Jesus is God. I am God. You are God.
I think it's a strange gratitude that makes us think we're the only ones in the solar system.
I have never done anything with any of you, whatever it was, at any time, that it was not to bring you to some growth. Listen, all ye scoffers and poisoners, we're feeling good in the house of Job today.
I think it's a strange gratitude that makes us think we're the only ones in the solar system.
All right, everybody, here we are live, and I am going to apologize ahead of time. If you hear background fireworks, I apologize. Some of our neighbors are still having Independence Day fun. You know, we got to let them get that out of their system, use up their fireworks. So you might hear some popping in the background, but we are still streaming live to YouTube, X, and Rumble, and also on Emily's X and Emily's YouTube. So guys, be sure to follow us on all of these streams. You can simply go to genxnewsx.com. All my links are there. And follow us. We have an interesting topic tonight, but first, Emily and Jer are here with me, of course, to talk about this on the Tinfoil Hat Friday. And I want to ask you both how your July the 4th went.
Utterly boring.
Oh.
You know
just
what?
Just the way I like it.
Well, I didn't have my son this year. We alternate years to for 4th of July. So this was not my year for 4th of July with him. But my dog, since he's diabetic and blind now, he gets nervous about the fireworks. And yes, I still have neighbors going off tonight. I'm in Eastern time zone, so they will hear that. I have my dog in the other room with a lot of fan noises and my laptop up, so hopefully he won't hear him. But it was relatively boring as well. But we're going to be celebrating fireworks and things with my family on Sunday. So that's my 4th of July.
Fantastic. I mean, we have the same thing. Our dog, Boo Boo, is like totally doesn't bother him. He's tough. But little Petey was just shaking. We went to my in-laws' house, and they had a really great view at their neighbor's house, but we had to leave because poor Petey just couldn't handle it. He was terrified. I couldn't get him out of his kennel when we got home from the back of the car. Literally just had to get him out, and I bought this little, it was like a horse's hooves filled with peanut butter for a chew toy, and I gave it to him, and he sat there and he licked that, and it calmed him down. So guys, if you've got like a dog that's freaking out, that kind of stuff, I don't know, right. You can look for things like that where they can lick or chew with there's peanut butter or like a Cheese Whiz or something, or a thing. He was so busy and focused on that, it helped his nerves. Poor little guy.
It's a distraction. Always food.
Food.
It's a distraction.
I didn't get that. Oh, there we go. We got a meme from Jer.
You not see that?
Yeah, I got to share it on the screen. I will in
just. Well, you don't have to share it. It was for Emily.
I didn't see it.
Oh.
I can't see it.
Well, share it with her, I guess.
Yeah, she can only see it if I share it. My cat watching the fireworks will hear bitch ass dog hides under the bed.
That's the truth. That is the truth.
Unless we got some kind of strange pagan who shoves a firework up your cat's ass.
I don't know.
I don't let my cats out either. My cat was inside when we were
Yeah.
gone. I made sure my cat was inside because you just never know what will happen. And people are so crazy. They're
They
just
are.
so nuts.
It's disgusting.
All right. Just in case you guys didn't know, we are going to be talking about Jim Jones today. And I have done a lot of research on Jim Jones because I used to run a podcast on cults. So I think this is my third show, but I wanted to have other people here because I did solo, just almost like an essay podcast before, and I wanted to have other people in to ring in to see what they would think. And I thought it's a good tinfoil hat topic because I always talk about Jim Jones and what he did, but now that we've unraveled a lot over the past 5 years about how the CIA was controlling culture and doing strange things like MK Ultra and that involved a lot of drugs is
There you go.
Continue.
I don't want them knocking at my door. But now that we know that they're doing that stuff and we've kind of a lot of people are exposing and revealing the truth, I thought, you know what? I always had a suspicion about Jim Jones, and I think my suspicion is right. But I thought, let's revisit this whole idea of Jim Jones because he was probably one of the most enigmatic cult leaders that we know of. I mean, the term drink the Kool-Aid was made infamous because of him. He's also one of the most evil cult leaders we've had, one of them. But most people don't realize how popular Jim Jones and how much people absolutely loved him. He was like a cultural icon at the time. And most people don't understand that he was, cult leaders aren't just these evil, like if they were just evil right to your face, they'd never get anywhere.
What's interesting though with Jim Jones and all these cult leaders from back in this same time frame and stuff, how did they get so well known? Because we don't have social media like they did. Somebody had to give them a platform. And in my opinion, it had to be the CIA or some kind of entity that had a lot of weigh in with things because now you can become a cult leader in a Facebook group, YouTube
Yeah.
stuff, all that stuff. Back then, we didn't have that information.
No, and most people had what the news told him. And I'll tell you right off, I have a slideshow I'm going to pop up to help kind of get us in a narrative. But I'm going to tell you right away, people knew what Jim Jones was up to, but the news just didn't report on it. It was independent, on-the-ground journalists who started busting the truth and talking to ex-members. And we'll go through that later. But once again, as we see today, it's independent journalists who are exposing the deep state. It's independent journalists who are saying, hey, what's going on with COVID? What's going on with Joe Biden? What the hell's going on with Ukraine? What's going on with Israel? It's independent journalists. It's not these big ABC, NBC, well, CNN wasn't around, but you get the point, right?
Well, we all know who owns them. It's a cult. They call us a cult. So that's just projection, in my opinion. But, they push this agenda, right? So obviously for mind control, it's all about mind control. It's broadcasting, casting a spell on you broadly. It's broadcasting. So it makes complete sense that they would align with these infamous cult leaders and promote them on their platforms back then.
Yeah, and I want to say this, that culture comes from cults. It really does.
Yep.
But the modern idea that we have of cults is relatively new. Like there is other definition of cults that's a little more benign. It's not as bad because Christianity would be started as a cult.
Catholic Church is a giant cult.
Oh, huge.
Right?
Biggest cult I think
But
there is.
we've got this kind of weird thing going on where there's these little cult it's like a cult leader, some females, and it's been happening since before Jim Jones. Like we had one in Canada in the 30s or whatever called Brother 12. Like these kind of cult leaders have been happening for a while, and it just seems like an explosion of them started to happen in the 60s and the 70s and 80s and 90s. So it's a CIA. We know it. It's just but I don't know. I have a slideshow, so I'm gonna pop it up, and then we can chat around some of these notes that I have because I wanted to start off with Jim Jones' childhood, so people actually understood what kind
Where
of
he came
person
from.
we're dealing with. And so let's. Oh look, we're so cute on the side.
I like the
Okay.
twirl in his hair. It's kind of sexy.
Oh, and he
That's
doesn't have
probably
the
what.
dark.
Oh my gosh, Tinder profile. I think. Ladies,
Oh
swipe left.
gosh.
If you see a man that looks like this, swipe left.
Well,
Ugh.
it's even weirder today. I say this all the time. Young kids are trying to dress up and do some kind of retro 80s thing, and they end up looking like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Well,
And
you know,
I see them all the time.
after that movie, that Jeffrey Dahmer movie came out, look how many people on social media started dressing like Jeffrey Dahmer. That Netflix series or whatever,
Yeah.
which what's his face? He's a tremendous actor. He was in American Horror Story over and over again. I can't remember his name. Like he has to have some kind of thing messed up with him. Like people need to check on him on a regular. But like a lot of people fantasized and really thought brought Jeffrey Dahmer up after that, movie series. It was crazy. It was like Jeffrey Dahmer became like famous, like not
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah.
Over again, I should say, over again.
Exactly. So here we go. Preacher Child. Jim Jones, the early years, guys. So I don't know if you guys, I don't know, Jer.
That's it. Evan Peters.
Evan Peters.
He's phenomenal actor. Love him and everything he's ever done, but I worry about him tremendously. Look, May
Yeah.
13th. Here we go. Friday the 3rd, or
What?
not Friday the 13th, but the 13th.
It could have been Friday. I don't know. You'd have to check that one.
Let me look it up.
Yeah. He was born in Crete, Indiana. And and look, his father was an alcoholic and his mother was Cherokee Indian. And she was also the sole financial supporter of the family, so they lived in poverty. Okay. He was born on a Wednesday on a May 13th. I was born on a Wednesday on an April 13th. Thanks, Jim Jones.
I was born on a Friday, March 13th.
Saturday.
So,
Jerry, were you a 13th baby?
I was not on the 20th on a Saturday.
What month?
oh,
What
what month?
February. February.
February. Okay.
I'm Pisces.
Yeah, oh my God, it's
I'm
a Pisces.
We're
With a
both Pisces, Jer.
Scorpio moon.
Oh, you're dangerous.
Yeah, I'm dangerous.
I'm double Aries, Aries sun, Aries rising, and Aquarius moon.
You're ultra confused.
I'm an ultra warrior. So, guys, just in case you're listening on the audio podcast and you're not looking at the visual, we've got a kid who's living in poverty with an alcoholic father, a Native Indian mother who's basically providing for the family, and Jim Jones is pretty much left to, take care of himself. And as a young kid, he is reportedly obsessed with death and religion very young. He would perform funerals for pets, and he was said to have killed cats and then performed a funeral for it. He was really into the sort of gospel church, He would preach to the minority Black children in the community, saying that he identified with them as a child.
Who was his pastor? Do we know who his pastor was? What church
I
he
don't
went
know.
to?
I'll
look it
I'm
up
not
and see if I
sure.
can
Look it
find it.
up.
Mhm.
Look it up. I might have it in the other slides, but he also loved Hitler. He would watch Hitler and copy Hitler. Just in case people didn't realize that, he actually was a very hypnotic speaker. Even as a child, he caught people's attention for his, speaking skills very young, and he was highly influenced by Adolf Hitler. So that's a little bit disturbing of a basis to have. I don't know if the CIA is like, hey, fill this form out. Here's the credentials you have to have. I don't know what, but this is, maybe people didn't know, and we just know this in hindsight.
When did he listen to Hitler? Because Hitler wasn't bad when he first started.
I don't think Hitler was bad at all, in my opinion. No,
he went crazy and got bad.
but I think a lot of it, if we want to call it reactive abuse, I don't know if you want to call that, like, how that's a whole other topic. I'm not going to go
Yeah,
into
I
it.
know. I
Yeah.
was just saying though. I mean, listening to Hitler perform speeches as depending on when the speeches were, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, it's not, but it is. If you're watching reels of a guy, preach the way Hitler's kind of propaganda was put out there, and everybody thought he was good at the time.
Mhm.
And he was, nobody thought he was bad. I mean, he was on Time magazine, all that
Yeah,
stuff at the
people
time.
loved him.
That goes into your
Yep.
psyche.
Yeah.
You're a young kid, you kind of absorb that.
Sure,
You
it's
may not have known.
impression making, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just like, I love that speech. And he probably was just possibly copying it. So on the road. So we got Jim Jones. I think I mentioned the monkeys here, guys.
Oh.
Yeah, here we got him. So I kind of skip a little bit fast, but it's kind of weird. Maybe it's not weird. Do you guys think it's weird that Jim Jones started attending Communist Party meetings, but he liked Hitler too?
No, I don't
No,
think it's weird.
Yeah, by 51. He was frustrated with FBI and society harassments of communists.
there's not a lot of light between communism and socialism. So
No, there's not. I mean, well, with a lot of people keep thinking fascism is on the right, but it's the only thing it's right of is communism. It's far left of conservatism.
I just saw today. I don't remember what paper it was. Someone or ABC News. It was ABC News claimed that Hitler was far right.
I mean,
Well, that's the narrative.
honestly,
That's a
Hitler
new
was
narrative.
Hitler was far left if you back in his time frame. Like he was,
Correct.
if I would call him a Democrat, a hardcore Democrat back then, because of his beliefs. It's kind of like all these parties have switched, and what used to
Yes.
be, yeah, I'd call Hitler
Well,
a Democrat back
I
then.
mean, come on, guys. I mean, the guy was a vegetarian. He didn't want people to wear makeup. It was all natural. He was into weird science
Germaphobe.
stuff. He was a germaphobe. He
Only had one ball.
yeah.
What?
He didn't ever want to have
Hold on.
children. I
What?
mean, the guy was astringent and
He was
and
a
totally
uniball.
anal.
He was a
He was a,
uniball. Yeah.
he was a
He was
one
uniball
baller.
that was anal.
Well, he
Sorry.
had weird sex stuff too, guys. He had
Oh,
weird
I'm sure they
sex
all
stuff.
do.
And
They
he was
all
into
do.
the occult.
And he was into the occult, and he was a big meth head. I mean, the Germans created meth.
Oh well, they were all taking those pills back then.
The Pervitin.
Yes,
Pervitin.
that's it.
Mhm.
Pervitin, like pervert.
Stuka pills.
No, Stuka.
Stuka
That's what
pills.
they
See,
gave
but
to
that's how
their.
the CIA and stuff works, though. Everybody, like, we got Charles Manson, which is from my hometown and everything. And my dad played music with Charles Manson when he was much younger and everything. Charles Manson helped my dad learn how to play guitar. But the thing is like they use drugs and psychedelics and stuff, and they still do that in
Part of the mind
military. My
control.
dad was on acid like crazy in Vietnam. They still do all of this stuff
Yep.
now, and then we have fentanyl and the open borders. They left Afghanistan, so we're not getting the poppy seed anymore. But fentanyl is way cheaper.
Yeah, it's also deadlier.
But these cult groups and stuff that use drugs and psychedelics and everything to push their agenda or push their cult or whatever, absolutely, I think, has been influenced with CIA or a 3-letter agency affiliated.
Well, it's fun. Here's what's funny is he didn't trust the FBI. He was always paranoid about the FBI because they were anti-communist at the time. And he was communist.
Would CIA be paranoid of the FBI at the time too? When did the FBI
I don't know.
start colluding with the CIA? Is my question.
That's a good question.
When the Department of Homeland Security was created.
So it was when was Jim Jones again? Hold on a second. 1978. So
78 was when Jonestown happened.
So Jonestown happened in 78.
We're here in the 50s in this part. I'm explaining to you where he started. He started as a pastor in the Somerset Southside Methodist Church. He claimed he left that church because they forbade integration with minorities. he started to preach at the Cadle Tabernacle. Then he moves on to create his own church that eventually becomes the People's Temple. So he's starting this in the 50s.
So
And
I would say the FBI and the CIA all colluded around Kennedy.
yeah.
Maybe a little bit before Kennedy.
Yeah, well, he's starting before this happens with his
Yeah.
preaching church. And of course he sells the monkeys door to door to create church funds. That's why he was selling the monkeys.
Real
It's
monkeys.
not, instead of chocolate covered almonds, guys, he's selling monkeys.
Hey, we're the monkeys.
Woohoo.
People say we monkey around.
So his influences as an adult are still Hitler. He also studied Father Divine and how to manipulate members and make them subservient. Father Divine specifically told him to find or create an enemy within. Doesn't that sound familiar? So Father Divine, look that guy up because that was a huge influence.
I'm
on
going to look
Jim
him
Jones.
up, but the
Look him up.
selling monkeys thing came from, he imported these monkeys. I wanted to know where he got these monkeys from. He imported the monkeys from South America.
Yep, so he's already got South American ties.
Yeah.
Right in the 50s.
He sold them door to door for $29 each, riding his bicycle around Southside Indianapolis with a cage of monkeys. He was such a comical sight that kids threw rocks at him, but with his cute merchandise is what they're calling it. He often got his foot in the door. Some of those who listened to his monkey business this makes a pitch started attending his services. So that's how he started getting these people, was by selling monkeys to them. He was first posted on April 10th, 1954 in the Indianapolis Star, and he was on the front page story about his monkeys and the shipment of monkeys.
And 1954 is also when he started to create the concept of the rainbow family.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Adopting children of different backgrounds. And no, go ahead, Emily.
Well, there's also a claim on him that some of these monkeys that he brought from South America that he sold made people sick and they had died.
Probably.
From a monkey disease.
God knows what a disease. Maybe he originally brought AIDS in.
Yeah.
HIV. So yeah, in the 50s, he also, because I mean, Jim Jones was the one who started the concept. Like he started this conventions and road trips with his churchgoers, and he would have all these buses and pack them full of members to spread his gospel. But what Jim Jones would do is he would leave seats empty because they would pick people up on the way to try and convert them. That's a Jim Jones tactic, and people still do that. That's a Jim Jones thing. And he probably learned a lot of this stuff from that Father Divine guy. And he went to Brazil, where he researched in 1963, he researched the economy and how locals would perceive his message. So he was early on, way before Jonestown, he's researching all this stuff on South America. He's got the monkeys, he's in South America. Now he's totally researching how the locals would, and we know South America is totally
I mean, we got
communist.
And the cartels and like perfect place.
It's crazy, and that's where he's looking at. I don't know how he got into that, or who the connections were, or who connected him with these monkey people. Like, I have no idea. I've never found that kind of trace, or I it's just interesting that it starts with monkeys. I don't know what that means, but it starts with monkeys. And I mean, California. Everybody was coming to California, weren't they, guys?
Mm-hmm. I'm still reading about this stuff with the monkeys.
California used to be a nice place to live.
It did. So his church. Okay, so this is Lemmy, you're gonna love this, because this is the whole thing about narcissism and what they do. Do you remember I said he loved that Father Divine guy, and that Father Divine told him to create an enemy within, or find the enemy? Well, Jim Jones does this. He gets his whole convert together, and excuse my language, stuff is happening in San Francisco. It's the 60s, and Jim Jones, being probably the early version of psychopath that he was, I mean, he gets the sense of this, right? That stuff's happening over in California. So what he does to get his convert to follow him is he tells them that Indiana is really racist, because most of them are black, by the way. He targets black people. Like, they literally have given up their social security checks and everything. By the time they get to California, it gets really bad. So he says they got to go west to California. So he first was at Redwood, and then he moved to San Francisco. One of the things he did when he was in Indiana is he told them the church was getting attacked by Nazis. By the way, who he admired. And the church, they would find it, vandalized and paint it with swastikas and say, and all this, racist slurs all over the church. So it scared people. So he says, we have to go to California because there's no racists out there, and they're all in Indiana. And so quite likely it's Jim Jones painting the swastikas on the church, right? Creating the enemy within, or finding the enemy. And so, like, who do we know that operates like that today? Who does? I don't know. Who calls everybody a Nazi today?
The Democrats. But here I want to real quick, because I don't know Father Divine, so I just looked him up really quick. I just want to say Father Divine was an African American minister. He was a spiritual leader from 1907 until his death in 1965. His full self-given name was Reverend Major Jealous Divine, and he was also known as the Messenger in his early life. He was from Hutchinson Island, Georgia, but ended up passing away in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, if you know any history about Pennsylvania and George Soros and all these other spiritual leaders that come out of Pennsylvania, this makes a lot of sense. But I did not know about this Father Divine now until tonight. So, he was an African American minister too. So there was a fascination with Jim Jones in the African American culture, which, in my opinion, and knowing what I know now about the government and everybody prying off the people and the poor, doesn't matter if you're African American or white, the poor society, but mostly back then was the poor society was African American. Like, this makes sense to easily manipulate that population. They've been easily manipulated and tested on for how many decades now?
And a lot of, even before the civil rights, there was a lot of Black Americans who've successfully ran businesses. Some of the people that Jim Jones convinced to get, like, they were successful business people, and they just handed everything over. It's more than just money that people are looking for. They're looking for something to belong to, something special where you're, like, enlightened.
And why would he call himself Reverend Major Jealous Divine? Jealous Divine. That's weird. I'm gonna have to do a deep dive on Father Divine, because I've never really heard of him. I mean, I've heard his name mentioned, but from Georgia to Pennsylvania, there's something weird about this Father Divine, and Jim Jones got a hold of him somehow, and that's interesting.
Right. Well, this is like this time where he's transferring from Indiana to California. He really starts preaching communism. So you can hear a lot of stuff where you could go listen to Jim Jones, and he'll quote the Bible.
Oh, I heard some of those quotes.
What he starts doing, his ideas: if you were a socialist or communist, you were not born in sin. However, capitalists were demon seed. Like, that's what he was pushing. He was pushing that total narrative, meanwhile, grifting off of everybody and trying to get money. And none of the stuff that these communists, none of it makes sense. It's like, now when he gets to the 70s, he starts off with that. Like, socialists are Jesus and Christianity, capitalists are evil and demons. So he starts off there with his leaders. But by the time he gets to the 70s, he actually starts stomping on Christianity and saying Jesus is bad. And some way he's trying to convince them to worship him only. So you can see, like, he gets them over there. He gets all these people to move with him to San Francisco. He starts his church, and we're not even into the political crazy stuff that he's done, but he's manipulating them, and the torture and the stuff that eventually happened even there. I mean, It was insane. But he's convinced. He starts off with this socialist, communist versus capitalist stuff, but then he really starts abandoning Christianity in the 70s, calling it down and requiring them to isolate more from people, which is what cults do, and worship him. And
Well,
so it's
it's interesting declaring it a flyaway religion. I am a Christian. Okay, I have a personal relationship with Jesus. I don't agree with the modern day church in many, 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 many ways. I had my great awakening in 2020. I went to Bible college, have bachelor's, master's in Christian education, and minor in theology. I had my great awakening in 2020. But to fly away from a religion is what, in my opinion, is a cult. So to declaring Christianity a cult, but also creating a cult.
well, cult. Like I said, the term cult has changed definitions. Like it's become a really bad thing because of people like Jim Jones and whatnot. I'm gonna give you the formative.
But I can honestly say, I think I was raised in that evangelistic era of, Kenneth
Mhm,
Copeland, Jesse Duplantis, Joyce Meyer, Joel Osteen, all that stuff. I was heavily involved in all that. met many of those people
mhm.
and things,
So
and it's total like I don't know what happened to but see these church people, these spiritualists and stuff. I was very easily manipulated at a very young age in my teens and 20s, early 20s. So if it was that the majority of his following, what age group were they in?
a lot. I mean, they're all over the place. I don't.
I
A
mean,
lot
I'd
of
like
them
to
had
see their age
children.
group,
A lot. You'd
because
have to look that one up. But when you look at cult, there it often also we regard it as a religion, regarded as unorthodox or spurious.
yeah.
A great devotion to a person, idea, object, movement. Um, Usually small group of people characterized by that devotion, and a system for the cure of disease based on dogma set forth by its prog. What does that say again? Promulgator, whatever. The
Promulgator.
promulgator. Thank you. The overlap of cults and culture. Cult shares origin with culture and cultivate. It comes from the Latin word cultus, a noun which means tilling and cultivating, or training or education. That's originally what culture, and I guess cult is like an offshoot. In English, cult has evolved a number of meanings, following a fairly logical path.
But
The earliest known uses of the word was recorded in 17th century, which meant worship. From here, cult came to refer to a specific branch of religion or rites or practices of that branch, such as the cult of Dionysus. By the 18th century, cult could refer to any non-religious admiration. But like the idea of culture and cultivate is really training, education, cultivation, but the
well,
cult part goes a little bit awry
that's
into
religion. It's like,
abuse.
well, we got religion and cults. We have practices, rites, rituals, ceremonies. We have a reverend spiritual leader, both in religion and cult. We got like sacred, like ideology, if that's what you want to call it. We have a system. There's always a system of some kind of like moral compass or something that everybody has to follow. There's also some kind of like form of like supernatural abilities in that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it becomes a cult, I don't know where's the fine line between religion and cult, because it seems
Well, I
like
think they overlap.
There isn't one. It's a
yeah,
Venn diagram.
yeah. So
Yes.
so it's just like, you know, what's socially accepted and what's not socially accepted. So I think with these
I think
cults back in the day here with Jim Jones, they were pushing this agenda for many, many planned the CIA, FBI. We have all these drugs, psychedelic stuff going on, and they blurred the lines there, and that's why he was more accepted.
so. In my opinion, the where you blur from something healthy to something unhealthy as a cult, where you blur is if you have to join this group. It's specialized.
Oh,
So
we
you're a
have
special
membership.
person. I know, but that there's multiple. You can't just be special on its own. It's specialized. They're cutting you off from people, but there's this place where it goes where you can't question it. There's no logic. You are asked to abandon yourself totally, your family, everything that you know who you are, and you're asked to adapt behaviors that are very abusive. But you're not asked to do that right away. You're love bombed. And so this
Oh yeah.
whole different, like, culture is supposed to cultivate and make you healthier and make you smarter and make you question things and be intelligent. Cults do the absolute opposite, and they will punish you and isolate you from the group and do everything to make you form into some kind of doctrine that worships an icon. And that's one of the biggest problem, is worshiping an individual, an icon, without question in cults. It's a huge problem for me. It's probably why I never got into one.
So I have real quick. I have the Jonestown memorial list. It looks like the majority of these adults that passed away. This happened in '78, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are anywhere between ages 30 and 40.
Yeah, a lot of them were
And
parents.
then
Like,
a
they
lot of them
lived
were
there.
kids, children.
Yeah, because and then a lot of them had their children there. They bring their children all the way to this jungle. I mean, nobody knew about
Now,
these kind of cults in those days. They just didn't know.
it looks
So
like
you
he
wouldn't
does
know.
have some elders there, though. Like, he has some elders there from 1912, 1915. If you
Mm.
want to call them elders, I'd like to look their names up too later on to see if they played any role in that. But the majority of these look like they're in their 30s to almost
Yeah,
40.
and they're in this point, it's the 60s and 70s when they're getting involved in this, and the war's long done, World War II, and they have this idea that they want something new, better than Christianity. Like, we got to have something, they want to get away from tradition and get away from their family and get away from all this old stuff, and that's being that that's literally being pushed, I think, by the CIA. And I think that's one of the biggest points about the CIA. Why, like Jerry was saying, why would the CIA ever want to be involved with Jim Jones? It's because the CIA, they constantly had a mission to, I think, destroy the family and break it up.
There's babies in this, like not even a
Yeah,
year
but
Mhm.
old.
why? Why would they want to do that?
Because
It's control the
I'm going to play
system.
devil's advocate for a lot of
Well,
this.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
why I would do it. Let me tell you, if I was CIA and I want to do mind control and I have these psychedelics and now we got free crack pipes and we can have whatever coming, keep the people dumb, keep the people poor, keep the people drugged. And if I can take one man, especially the black community, now I can take one man and do this. It was almost 1,000 people killed off this one man. Imagine being able to do it wider than that. Which, as time has
Mm,
gone on, we've got these larger thing. It's to control, manipulate, and to destroy.
Yeah,
well,
but
and
there's
the other thing
easier
is,
ways to do it than with
the other thing is there, a lot of these were projects of mind control.
Yeah, it
And
is.
the thing is why, well, a lot of times there's not a logical reason. We know that they were planning this. We know the CIA had a lot of these
sure,
um
sure. I get the
projects out where
I
they
get
wanted people
yeah.
to depopulate, where they wanted to, if you're a communist, you actually religiously believe that the state should
Well,
operate things, not the family. That's your
it could
point, to break up the
Right, right,
family.
right, right.
it could
Okay.
also it could also too be a huge distraction of what's going on in the world because we have distractions every flipping day for what's really going on in the world. So look at the time frame that this is all happening. You know, so it could have just been used. And these people that are high, in these fields, the CIA, FBI, all this stuff, like they are absolutely psychopaths. They're demonically possessed, in my opinion, and they don't care as long as it gives a distraction and they can be getting like when Jonestown happened. I can only imagine being back there. I try to put myself back there. All these children is what I keep thinking about. All these children gone, and cyanide and injections and drinking the Kool-Aid came from this.
Hmm.
So, like, what else was going on that the CIA, the FBI, the US government was doing and got away with it because we were all looking at Jonestown?
There's a lot of different stuff that was going on, and it's
Right.
hard to get. They kind of skips through the whole thing, but I'm going to tell you one thing, and this is what evil cult leaders do. You're talking about children. What they did was they get the parents to kill the children first, and when they kill the
No,
children and hear their baby
please.
scream and see their
Can't
bodies
do
laying
this.
there,
We cannot do this. This is
they're done. They kill themselves. They're done. They're like, psh, that's why they make them do the children first, so they can't. The adults now don't want to live. That's why they do it.
This is the worst cult thing. Like, in my opinion, this is the worst. This is terrible.
So now we have, at this time, before Guyana Jonestown happened, we have him. He's now claiming that he's a reincarnation. Total red flag for a cult leader. Total red flag for a cult leader. Emily's just gonna step out for a second. She'll be right back. So Jerry, you're gonna have to help me out. It's it's an emotional thing, but I'm pretty blunt about why these psychopaths do what they do, so people understand, not to get people upset, so people actually understand how they're manipulated and why they do the horrible things that they do. It's not to make people upset.
And it's hard to say that Jones himself wasn't under some kind of influence.
Yeah. Well, we know he was on drugs, that's for sure.
Sure.
And then you're like,
But
where
I mean,
did he get it?
we're talking about the CIA being, mind controlling this group of people for an experiment. It just seems to follow that Jones would have been part of that experiment as well.
Oh, he would have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was a patsy? He's a patsy.
Yeah, it's a good word for it.
I don't know that he was. I don't know that he wasn't a willing participant, but I'm just throwing it out there that he was part of it.
Well, he was part of it, but he may not be like in the beginning with these sickos. I feel like they just go along with it and like yeah, and then over time they see like they're narcissistic psychopaths. So over time,
exactly,
they're gonna get their narcissistic supply off these people, and then they're gonna really think that they're grandiose. They have this false self, and there's certain. I'm gonna just say it. There's certain zodiac signs.
And zodiac
signs that is used with these serial killers, these cult leaders, and there's a clear pattern if you look them all up to find out what goes on with them. And the CIA knows this, and they play off of it, and they find this guy. He's selling monkeys on the side of the road, so he gets notoriety. And like, who the heck is this guy? And then you find out he's tied to religion or religious type stuff, and he has some weird beliefs maybe, and like, oh, this guy we can play off of.
So I think Jim Jones' biggest connections come when he goes to San Francisco. I think that's where the politics start flooding in. So once he sets up People's Temple's headquarters in San Francisco, we get to see him becoming linked to politics. And there's certain politicians that he gets paid to be on certain boards. And we cannot rule out the whole concept, love him or hate him, you should hate him. And Jerry reminded me that the CIA hotbed was in San Francisco. Remember?
Yes.
Okay. So love him or hate him, you should hate him. He had an enigmatic personality, and he was a good speaker, preacher, and everybody loved him. They adored him.
Everybody loves psychopaths. Like when you have all these people, like the narcissists, just the personal narcissists in your life, they're usually community people. They usually run in politics. They usually are a pastor or a praise and worship leader at a church and stuff. Everybody loves them, but they have no clue what happens behind closed doors.
Of course not. Nobody does. We know, Emily.
Yes.
We know. So there is, I believe he's on, I think this next page, The Power of Politics. I think this next page kind of goes into some of the people. Yeah, okay. He starts becoming huge because everybody's going to San Francisco. We got Haight-Ashbury. It's funny that the CIA is there, and we know Hollywood. the CIA was pushing the hippie thing. They totally were. Mansons, they totally were. And this was part of breaking apart, changing the culture from Christianity. They absolutely were. He was seen as a healer, a prophet, everyone was saying, you got to listen to this guy, Jim Jones. Like, everybody was talking about him. They were just drawn in. Gay rights activists like Harvey Milk just loved him. Absolutely adored him. He was always making sure he was seen doing humanitarian work, of course. Right? You know how psychopaths are. Yep. I know many people who are psychos who make sure you see them in a good way. They love animals. They take care of cats. And then, like, I had the experience that I knew somebody. She I won't say who she is, but I walked up
I know
and
who
she
you're
was
talking about.
She was kicking the dog. She was kicking a friggin' dog.
Hold on. Repeat that. What did you just say, Melissa? I'm sorry. I missed that.
I just said I won't say who she is, but I came up to pick up my son, and this woman was kicking a dog, and I reported it, and my ex-husband was flipping out, calling me a liar. And here she is, part of the kitty cat community and servicing and being nice to cats and all this stuff, but in secret, she's kicking the dog.
Oh,
And
I know what you're talking about.
Wow. People who are sick they are creating that false happy self to manipulate, and they have a deep and depraved secret hidden self that as they go on in life and do stuff, it comes forth. They can't hide it forever. It's like a demon. It's a demon. I better stop. I'm going to start preaching, like sounding like a preacher if I keep this up.
Well, you were talking about preachers. I started pulling up the Jews of Jonestown. So go ahead with this because I started thinking about the Jews and Israel and all that stuff because Benny Hinn is an Israeli-born person and he reminds me of Benny Hinn. But that's if we get to it later on. But
go
ahead.
Well, no, and it's at this time that politicians really see him as an asset. And maybe the CIAs are pushing him as an asset. Maybe they helped build him up. Maybe they funded him. I mean, he was taking everybody's pension. He was taking all his own. Like, here's what he did. Here's what doesn't make sense. Here's what, you get a pension or you get some money. You get it from the government and you can do what you want with it, whatever, how much it is. Jim Jones tells these people, like, hey, if you give me your pension, you won't have to worry. I'll give you dental. I'll give you this, and you just give me all your money and all your control and let up all your family and move in with us. And I'll just take over that. I'm like, how the hell does that make any sense? You can already do that yourself and control your own money. But he obviously has a group of people who are afraid. And they want someone to be like a daddy and control it for them. So they're like, I don't want the government to do it, so I'll just get this preacher guy who's really cool and loves me to do it. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. And so we have him. He also, like most narcissists, he exaggerates how many members he had. He might have had 3,000. He tells everyone it's 20,000. And he's the master of hype and lie in media. Gee, I wonder where CNN got that from. So his first accusation of voter fraud was in 1975. He helped Mayor Moscone win. It was never proven, though, of course it was never proven, that Jones had many people from out of town come in and vote using dead people's identity. So Moscone won 12-1 as mayor in San Francisco in 1975. That's impossible. Like, it's literally impossible to win 12-1. Like, the odds of that are insane, scientifically, mathematically. 12-1. So they're pretty sure they did what Democrats always do and get dead people to vote.
So we're dealing with the generational, a familiar spirit, like this, like nothing new is under the sun, right? Satan can never create anything new. Anything that comes new is from God. So they're using these same tactics over and over and over. We should be seeing a pattern in all of this over and over. Cult leaders, serial killers, everything. It's the same pattern.
Yep. And of course, after Moscone wins, he awards Jim Jones a position as chairman of the San Francisco Housing Authority Commission. Like, why would you give him, like, so people,
who's paying who in this?
I don't know. It's like people get all these positions and they're dumb and they're stupid. They shouldn't. They have no qualifications. It's like nothing.
It's like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris right now, man.
Yeah. It's like, why is Hunter Biden? Why is he in Burisma? Like, what the?
Oh, like, that's a whole other. That's a whole other tinfoil hat because I got everything on Burisma. I exposed Burisma about 7-8 years ago before Joe I even knew he was running. So that's a whole other topic with Burisma.
But you can see like but it works. He fudges all the stuff, and you know what people don't understand? You know what? Even today, as you and I, Emily and Jer, as we're talking, a lot of people still don't understand how they've been bamboozled for decades and decades and decades and lied to and manipulated.
It's why it works, because they also infiltrate our educational system. They infiltrate everything, the media, all that stuff. That's why it works. Like nobody reads, nobody self researches. Nobody does that ever.
Yeah.
And it's sad. And you know, I have helped many people over the last several years. Like they don't even know where to start when it comes to research. What websites? What nobody knows to look up FBI documents, CIA documents, which I don't even know if I trust all of those, but if they're scanned in and there's signatures and stuff, I do trust those. But
yeah.
You know, nobody knows where to go and research, and that's why it still works. And baby boomers are the worst, which is the most of our population still to this day is baby boomers. They were raised on the television. They were raised to trust the news, and they have been absolutely brainwashed. Baby boomers is a cult. My dad's a baby boomer. My mom is a little bit of a baby boomer. She's on the edge of it. But my dad, for the longest time, well, that wasn't on the news. That wasn't on the news. And he's finally, he comes to me now and talks to me, and he doesn't say, well, that wasn't on the news. So,
well, I've got this list that I'm about to list to you guys of who Jim Jones was involved with might actually sound familiar. You might
I'm sure.
know
Absolutely.
a few people.
Okay,
so we got here in 1976. Jones met with Jimmy Carter's running mate on the tarmac in San Francisco.
Well, that sounds like the Bill Clinton tarmac incident.
And he was introduced to Jimmy Carter and Rosalind Carter, and I've got some pictures of the lovely Rosalind Carter sitting with our favorite. This one, she's sitting with Jimmy Carter. She's also Jim Jones. She's also hanging out with John Wayne Gacy. I don't know.
I thought that was Nancy Reagan when you sent that to me.
No, that's Rosalind Carter. That's Rosalind.
Thanks for correcting me.
John Wayne Gacy.
I didn't know. I wasn't paying attention. I was
calling her Nancy likes serial killers. She's got a hard on for serial killers. Remember?
She does. Let's look up Ted Bundy.
It's not Nancy Reagan though.
No, it's not. This is Rosalind Carter.
I know. I see Rosalind. That.
Yeah.
And so there we have it. She's with Jim Jones. We do know, but they met. And of course, they wanted him to help because Jimmy Carter did not have a good campaign. It was very lagging at first. It's amazing he became president.
Because I remember my grandma. We have the Jimmy Carter wooden nickels. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, I have 3 of them here at my house. My grandmother was a fan of Jimmy wooden nickels.
I wish I had wooden
nickels. I was like, why do you have wooden nipples? What the hell is going on?
Why do you have 3 of them?
I have 3 of them. My grandmother had them, and she was a huge fan of Jimmy Carter, and I was not born during that time. So when I grew up, my grandmother, she gave me the wooden nickels. I have them here at my house. I have not really done much research on Jimmy Carter at all. Maybe we should.
There's some interesting stuff because what Jim Jones did was he would get those busloads full of people and he'd show up to all the campaigns and create a hype because he had media hype. Media loved him. He's probably connected with the CIA. And so he hyped up Jimmy Carter. The one thing though that's really interesting about Jimmy Carter before we get into the rest of the people is that, you know, when he was campaigning second time round to do a second term, interestingly enough, Reagan was running against him, and of course his lovely vice president was Bush, who was formerly of the CIA, and it was Jimmy Carter. There was an Iranian hostage issue going on. I think this was called the October Surprise. This is the real surprise, the October Surprise. It wasn't just that Reagan beat Carter. It was why Jimmy Carter was trying to arrange it so that these hostages would be released before elections, so it would help him, right, in the polls and everything
Well,
like
that makes
that.
sense.
What happened was the Republicans, who were on behalf of Bush and Reagan, they made it so Republicans aren't all good, my MAGA friends. I'm sorry, and I know MAGA people.
No, they're not. They're not.
They know this. The Republicans basically screwed it around so they wouldn't get released, so he would lose. So they let those American people be tortured by Iranians, terrorists, for longer.
Was that Argo? Was that Argo?
Argo was the story of the rescue. What she's talking about is how Reagan and the Republicans, probably with the help of the CIA, negotiated with Iran to keep the hostages longer.
So Carter would lose.
And Reagan promised them, gifts if they did
Reagan,
this.
I hate to say that, Reagan was not good people. Like,
what president is good people?
I mean, but I don't think that people understand about what he did to the farmers. That he really screwed the farmers over back then, and also the Contra issues that was going on too during that time. But he was also an actor. Look up all of our presidents and their IMDb's. Go look that up.
They have acting IMDb's. So a few other people that were involved with our wonderful Jim Jones was, you guys know Willie Brown? Kamala Harris knows Willie Brown.
She sucked her way to the top.
Yeah, he promoted Jim Jones as a combination of Martin Luther King, Angela Davis, and Albert Einstein and Mao Zedong. Sounds absolutely fantastic. Willie Brown was all a huge fan of Jim Jones back in the day. Absolutely amazing, huh, guys? Bet you didn't know that. Dianne Feinstein, who is now passed away.
Oh, she's dead. She's evil, man. That woman is evil.
She promoted Jones. Yeah, she promoted him as a great humanitarian. Harvey Milk. He was a great gay activist. He was also a pedophile. Gushed such greatness I have found in Jim Jones People's Temple. Jane Fonda. Are you surprised that Jane Fonda promoted Jones?
No, I'm not surprised at Jane Fonda. But hold on, Kamala Harris. Who was it that she was?
Willie Brown.
Willie Brown. Only thing I know about Kamala is Montel Williams' show. So Willie Brown. I want to look that up. Okay.
Willie Brown. Willie Brown was the guy who basically how Kamala got to power is she sucked Willie Brown.
Well, he was mayor he was a state's attorney or AG for the city. I forget.
Yeah, something like that.
He was a bigwig attorney, and she was an up and coming attorney, and that's.
Yeah. Let me tell you this though. What Kamala Brown, Kamala Brown's mother, Shamala Gopalin.
Kamala Harris's mother?
Yes. Kamala Harris's mother is Shamala Gopalin Harris. Gopalin is her maiden name. And Gopalin means to rig.
In what?
What do you mean?
In what
language?
Hold on, I'll tell you. Let me look it up. I haven't done it in a long time.
Okay, so also Pulitzer Prize winner Herb Caen promoted.
Herb Caen? I love Herb Caen.
He promoted Jim Jones. I'm sorry. He did.
I did not know that.
Yeah, surprise. I'm not surprised about Jane Fonda. Sorry, Jer.
Gopalan is a Hindi. It means protector of cows.
No, hold on. You're looking at it
wrong. No, I'm looking right
at it. Hold on. I'm going to pull it up. I could have looked it up in Hebrew.
Kamala Harris just doesn't want us to eat beef.
Wait.
Hold on. I always look every... No,
Stop. This is the same as like conflating gematria values between... Yeah,
I don't believe in that. I don't believe in gematria.
Regardless if you believe it or not, it's
I do look up everything
look at
in
this.
Hebrew and Greek.
Is that Herb Caen? Who is this? This is Jim Jones with
maybe it's Don King. He's going to promote a fight.
Don King in a headlock.
No, I don't think so.
Your mama is so hairy. It looks like she has Don King in a headlock.
Yeah. Gopalan in Hindi means protector of cows.
Well, you just pulled up the very first thing on Google then.
Well, no, I pulled up the Hindu meaning of it.
I don't do Hindu.
But she's Indian.
I don't get.
She's
No, she's
Indian, though.
Indian. She's black. She's
No,
everything.
no, she's not black.
Yeah, but
she's
the thing
Indian.
is,
She's Indian too.
okay, you
She's
guys,
Indian and
if
Jamaican.
she's Indian, you have to go with the Indian version because she's
Correct.
Indian.
Which she
That's
is.
what he means.
Yes. It doesn't matter what the Hebrew
Well,
translation of
I'm
that
going to
word
tell
is.
you that it does matter to me. Hebrew and Greek matters to me. And go Palin means to rig. And I will pull it up right
Well,
now. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up.
she
I
might
had a
like
whole
cows
show on this.
too. What if she likes cows too?
I mean,
It
well, what
doesn't
if we
matter.
like goats? A lot
It's
of people like
irrelevant.
goats.
It doesn't matter
I'm-
what the word is in Hebrew. It's
The
whatever.
It
point
does
is,
to me.
she's protecting cows in Indian, and she's part Indian, East Indian.
She's half Indian and she's half Jamaican.
There you go.
Dude, she's black.
No, she's not black.
That's what she says.
Yeah, but she's not.
All right, guys.
She's dark
I got-
skinned and she's
I
Jamaican.
got some
That's
stats. You guys stop arguing. I got some stats here.
not
Okay,
arguing.
I'm gonna bring it up. I want to
Correcting.
find this.
So, Jim Jones' ministry was made up of 75% Black and 25% white Americans who came from all levels of economic backgrounds. He started his ministries as most cult leaders do, and people with narcissistic personality do. He actually is the dark triad, with compliments to individuals, helping them out, and then love bombing them, offering insecure parts of society who were looking to belong, just like Jim Jones was, a place where they would be taken care of. This is why they so willingly signed over their social security checks and pretty much their whole life, just like every other cult. Jim Jones preaches love, equality, acceptance, inclusivity, and woe to capitalists. Who does this sound like, guys? It sounds like the woke. Sound familiar? Sounds familiar to me. Rainbows, Rainbow Family, many Black businesses family who were in the middle to upper class would give over all their pays to Jim Jones. I mentioned that before. Once in the church, people would cut off from family members and have to devote all of their time working, volunteer, road trips to recruit members in building of Jim Jones' sick, twisted empire. They would often stay awake for days, maybe get a few hours of sleep. If they asked for sleep, they would be made to feel guilty for wanting luxuries when they should be working to improve the world. You can bet Jim Jones slept lots and ate what he wanted. Their diets were minuscule. Jim Jones fed them very little, and they did not receive the medical attention that they were promised. So that's just a few stats to let you know. Once they got you dependent, as all abusers do, your utopia is always hell. It's never the utopia promised. And this is what we have to remember about the government, people. They are made up of these psychopaths. So, what did you find out, Emily?
I'm typing it in and I'm trying to listen to
Okay.
you at the same time.
So, Jones preached like a Black Pentecostal preacher. He knew his target audience and he became what they wanted. He was a skillful orator, and his presentations were so well controlled and orchestrated that he mesmerized everyone. And of course, as I mentioned before, even prominent people, Jane Fonda, Harvey Milk. I'm sure there was many actors beyond that who absolutely adored Jim Jones. He would so here's his tricks. You guys know all about the healings? Do you hear how
Oh, I
Jim
want to
Jones
talk about
healed
the
people?
healings. Hold on,
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
have my stuff here on to rig here in a second.
we'll
but
talk
I want to
about
talk
the
about the
healings.
healings because he resembles Benny Hinn, which I know some people that have been involved with Benny Hinn and the sounds and the music and the fake healings that have occurred with Benny Hinn. Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay. Incognito says there's no way Kamala passed law school.
Mm-mm.
Sergio says, "Oh, damn, I'm late." Well, we're still on, Sergio. You can still tune in.
You're good, Sergio. You're good.
So there was healings, and as you may know, every kind of con man, I don't want to say preacher, but most of these kind of con people, they have a con, they have a way to do it. So he would have people fake they were blind and cripple, and then of course suddenly be healed. So he'd hired actors. He would also fake cutting cancer out of people. They would just put chicken to rot or whatever, and they would use that rotting chicken and hide it somewhere and pretend like it was the cancer being removed. Remember, people were naive in these days. They didn't understand how much we understand. or they didn't have the internet to research everything. So he once drugged a woman and she passed out. When she was passed out, he had someone put a cast on her. When she came to, after being drugged, he told her that she had passed out and broke her leg, and that they had this cast put on her while she was unconscious and all this stuff, which is crazy that someone would believe that. Um, and the doctor put the cast on while she was unconscious. So he brought her in during a sermon, and he said he was going to give her healing and do his performance. He did this whole big performance. Then, of course, they cut the cast off of her and told her to run on the broken leg because it would be miraculously healed. And, of course, because it was never broken in the first place, she ran through the church totally able, totally not with a broken leg. And, of course, the church went hysterical. They were like, oh my God, Jim Jones, it's proof. He's Jesus. He's the Messiah. He's magic. And of course, we know it was never broken at all. It was all just basically, they drugged someone. I mean, God knows what else they did to her.
Oh, I mean, it's like the date rape drug.
Yeah. He also would confuse them sexually. Who do we know who confuses people sexually today? He would tell everyone that they were lesbians or homosexuals, and he was the only one who was a heterosexual. He declared to abstain from sex, but of course he was having sex with many members, including men who he made them think they were getting love from him from anal sex and abused them to thinking they were not heterosexual. The abuse for nonconformists that stepped up in the church slowly and became violent. He did violent beatings. He tortured members against each other by fighting. So he'd pit everyone against each other and get them to fight. Members were encouraged to brutally beat the sinners who were capitalists, dirty capitalists. Children were abused by being paddled and even electric shocked and made to stand by a ledge for hours. Parents had been so manipulated for so long, they stopped questioning it. Those who did question it eventually left. And one of the most disturbing psychological tortures, there's a picture of Jim Jones that he did, which is basically it's almost premonition of what would come in Jonestown. One day they were having a sermon, and he told everybody as part of the sermon and the ritual they had to drink this juice. So everybody drank this juice. And then after they drank the juice, he told them, oh, you just drank poison. So immediately they all start screaming and they freak out. And everyone's crying because they think they've just been poisoned. And then he goes, oh, I was just kidding. It wasn't
they
poison.
These practices every night, though.
But I'm not done. Yeah. He didn't do that one every night. He said, oh, it's not poison. I was just messing with you. It's okay. And so why he did that, there's a reason why he did that. And some of the psychological stuff that he's doing, there's no way he just learned it himself. CIA probably taught him. He did that because this weeds out the stronger members. So the people who thought, wow, that's crazy shit, they left the church after he did that, pretended to poison them. The really weak ones stayed. And so he knew the people who stayed and put up with that kind of abuse and whatever were prime, that he could probably get them out of the country and keep manipulating them. That's why they do these tests all along the way to see who will drink the Kool-Aid. And the weak ones who drink it and don't question it and fall for that and just go, oh, okay, and still go along, those are the ones you want to keep in the cult. The ones who get angry and start questioning it, those are the ones you want to get. You want to get rid of them because they will stand up they'll create problems for you if you try to become this leader. So that's why these people do that. That's why they do these testings. This test.
Well, FYI, people looking at this picture, look at the background. Let's look at the background. And honestly, the weak people, like a narcissist never likes people to question, right? So if you question a narcissist, if you question a psychopath, like they absolutely have that narcissistic rage. They want you gone anyway. They want to have a group of people or somebody that can easily manipulate, and they can continue in that cycle of abuse and brainwashing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times it's children. Honestly, a lot of the times it's children.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of children that died in this.
Yeah.
And it's because their parents also became suckers of that. And then we got to look at the parents and how they were raised. I would almost guarantee that the parents in this thing also had a narcissistic parent growing up.
Oh, quite possibly. And Jim Jones, by the way, he called those mock poisonings white nights.
Mm.
Yeah, and he did it multiple times to weed out the weak. He did exactly what the Democrat Party is doing today. Is everybody's a Nazi, everybody's this, they're evil capitalists, the KKK is out to get me. He creates all these fictional villains. The Democratic Party literally is copying what Jim Jones did back in the 70s and 60s.
So the KKK was out to get him?
No, he just told them they were. He has to create a demon. He has to create a demon. The KKK wasn't out. Most of the evil Nazi stuff Joan claimed was happening, including vandalism, was likely another staged up, done by Jones, just like he staged all the healings. Like you can see in Indiana where swastikas were painted on his church. He did it, and I know he did.
That comes along with the narcissistic psychopath, like schizophrenia part, right?
Yeah.
Like narcissists always thinks that people are out to get them because they've done people so dirty for so long.
Yeah.
And things. So that goes along with the schizophrenia type portion of
but
narcissism.
In order to make it, like, you can't just keep saying it. You have to, people are going to want to see it. So you actually have to create the whole incidents. It's just like our government create, 9/11, they have to create the villain. This is they're like psychos. It's all the same thing. So guys, I don't know what our government's like, a giant version of Jim Jones.
The government is any 3-letter agency. We need to get back to a republic. Speaking about Independence Day, I mean, we've been sold back to the British District of Columbia. Like, we are a U.S. corporation. We are not for the people. We have a corporation. It is funded by money and everything else. They don't give a crap about us as people. We have to have another July 4th. We need to have another Independence Day and overthrow that and get back to a republic for the people. Democracy is all brainwashed. It sucks. It's terrible. It's awful. Democracy is not good, but we've been brainwashed for so long to believe it is. And these people in Congress, they're not for us on both sides, Democrats, Republican, all of them are not for us. We got to overthrow it again, but I don't think it's ever going to happen again because we've been so brainwashed.
I know, it's incredibly sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly sad, but
I mean, we were sold back in 1871, and then when we're born and our birth certificates and everything, like any bill that you get in America, in any kind of judicial court stuff that you go through, everything is in capital letters. Your first name, last name, that's your other person, and then your other name is, normal, like capital letter Emily, and then my last name Menshouse, capital letter. Anything in caps that's under another number. You are born into trade. We are all born into slavery, and they use our birth certificates and our social security to make money off of us in America. And it all comes District of Columbia.
Can you prove that? Can you prove that?
Yes, I can prove it to you. I send you all kinds of stuff, Jerry. And the thing is that many people don't know about it. In 1871, just think about a narcissist, okay? And to think that we're free and we call ourselves the United States of America, if I was a narcissist, I would trade us off. I'd get all the money, I get payout, whatever, but make it still think it's the United States of America, but I'll just attach corporation to the end. That's it. And then the corporation's never used. The corporation part is never used. So then you still think that you're a free country. We were sold back to the British in 1871, way past 1776. We are not a free country. We are a U.S. corporation. It's actually on the freaking Capitol Corporation.
Yep. Well, I'm going to steer it back a little bit to Jones.
Sorry, I got a little bit off. We have 4th of July and everything this week, but this is how these narcissistic people work. They hide under an agenda. They hide under themselves, and then they make titles and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, sorry.
It's okay.
Well, I think
But
that's
it's true. But it's true. What you're saying is true. And this is how Jones treats the people that he is. They're just money cows, cash cows. It's all about cash cows. There's
That's
not
what we
real
all
love.
are. As American
Yeah.
citizens, we're cash
Yeah.
cows to the system.
So, and of course, you guys know the most craziest part of the cult comes, of course, when heavy drug use starts entering. And Jim Jones Jim Jones starts heavy drug use. I wonder where he got all those drugs from. He had
the government.
Guys, yeah, exactly. Who's the one who funnels the drugs in the first place? Come on, people. I know you know. The CIA, the government, they're the ones who are getting the drugs into the country. Isn't that right, Jer? Do you agree? I don't know. Maybe Jer's not here.
I'm here.
Some of them.
I'm here. I was just muted.
Go ahead.
I think a lot more coming through cartels, whether or not they're
Well,
supplied
the cartels work for the government.
Some do, some don't. It's not all black and white.
Most of them.
No, it's true. It's not all black and white.
So, I mean,
But
who knows where you get drugs in Guyana? It seems like it's a pretty corrupt place.
well,
You could get anything you want.
Well, he was still in California when he begins drug using.
Mm.
I mean, why do you think he was wearing those sunglasses all the time? He had. It's almost like. Yeah, well, it's true. This real Jim Jones comes out. That nice. He looked rather, 1950s, 1960s. He's looking a little, put together. He's got a family, his rainbow family. But this real monster comes out in the 70s with the drug use. It's like the real demon, the real creepy, crazy guy who the real thing that's been motivating him all along shows up. And he's all bloodshot, drug induced, so he's covering the demon with his sunglasses.
I'll buy that.
Yeah, and he's kind of looking like a pimp, if you ask me, a preacher pimp. What preacher do you know dressed like Elvis?
He's wearing was it aviators? Like we got Joe Biden wearing aviators. Come on now, it's the same spirit.
It's crazy.
It's the same spirit. They are all the same spirit. Nothing new is under the sun. It's all rerun, and then just keep getting higher and higher in the hierarchy.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is at this time, because Jim Jones is pushing all these psychological crazy on his people do quit, people do leave. But of course, they threaten those people like cult leaders do. But those people do start talking. And it's, like I said, this is where things start going crazy, because the crazier he gets, the more people leave, getting juiced in the jungle. The more people leave, like people are leaving, but they're terrified too, because they're so, Jim Jones has power. He's politically, he could be linked to the CIA. I don't have direct evidence of this, but it's quite highly likely. I mean, he's in San Francisco. The CIA is in San Francisco. He's got all these politicians, pushing him money. He's, cheated for a mayor. He gets on different boards. He's got all this money, all this power. People adore him. He's like an icon, in everywhere. I mean, Jane Fonda, Jesus. I mean, she was an icon. I don't like her.
It's kind of like Scientology. Yeah. It's kind of like Scientology, honestly. He had the stars, he had the government, especially out in California and stuff, and then he's doing international trade, monkeys, drugs, or whatever in South America up there, which is kind of close to California anyway. South America is, but it's kind of like a modern day Scientology, in my opinion.
Well, Jim Jones is he had already been, like I said, he'd been down to South America scouting it out. God, probably 10 years before any of this happened. I don't know what that sound is in the background. But there's some.
I'm looking at
That's me. I'm sorry. It's me.
I'm like, I don't know what that is, but so what happened? Like, he's starting to be exposed. Like I said, people are leaving. He's about to be exposed. There was an article that was about to be published in New West. It was an independent journalist exposing the People's Temple with interviews from ex-members who told the reporter what was really happening in the church. And what I've mentioned is just light. What was really happening was probably even worse with the abuse. When Jim found out that this article was about to be released, he had the editor read it to him. So the editor read it to him over the phone. He literally fled the U.S. within 6 hours, and then had the rest of the members were packed up and leaving within 24 hours. How can one man have that happen unless he hasn't got connections and ways, and then all of the stuff that they had to get there, the medicines and the drug, like, how can you make that happen unless you have some force to help you make it happen, some government force? I just don't see how you could make that happen in the middle of the jungle. It's the way that he does it so quickly. Like, he literally evacuates them from the US within 24 hours. That's,
I mean, there's a 1964 CIA covert operations to overthrow Chetty Jagan. I don't know. I'll says in Ganya, wherever he was going. There's a lot of CIA,
Guyana.
Guyana.
Guyana, CIA stuff going on in Guyana anyway.
Yeah.
That was in 1964. When did he go to that area?
He probably in 76 or 77. Let
So,
me double check.
10 years before the CIA is doing covert operations in that area, like, that's just a general Google search that popped up. I haven't done investigation on this stuff. I just know Jim Jones being the most, I honestly do believe that he's the most destructive, disgusting.
Yeah,
cult leader.
August of 1977 is when he arrived in Guyana with
Okay.
hundreds of other people. So it was 77, August
Okay.
of 77. And of course, this catastrophe happens in November of 1978, November 18th,
Okay.
to be specific. So, but there's, of course, people are complaining. It's in the news. The mainstream media is still hushing it up. That tells you something. Who controls the mainstream media? Anybody? Who controls the mainstream media? It's maybe the CIA, maybe the intelligence agency.
Oh no, it's the
corporation.
freaking Jews. It's the Jews that own it all. It's freaking which they also own all of our publishing books.
But the
schools.
news.
Yeah,
even
they
the
own it.
You have smaller news agencies and stuff, but the major ones, they probably have a narrative.
The smaller news agencies get the same, like in the emails. I have a friend that works for the news, our local news. They get emails every day in a script every day to follow from the larger news. It's like a pipeline of stuff.
Yep.
And all the major news outlets are all owned by the Jews, Israelis.
Exactly. And so they're hushing it up.
I'd like to know if Jim Jones is directly connected to Israel. Is what I'd like to know.
You can look that up. I'm sure he would be.
I mean, I could probably find out.
I actually think that I read something about that, actually.
Well,
I may even have it in these slides. Have it in these slides.
I sent a post from the Jerusalem Post about Jim Jones and the Jews that were affiliated in his cult, but I don't know if he's directly himself connected.
Well, anyways, Congressman Leo Ryan has started to become interested in the People Temple, as he was this hands-on politician guy, and there was this custody battle that was ensuing. He was trying to say this kid was his, and it was a child of ex-members Timothy and Grace Stowing, and so they were trying to fight for their kid, to get their kid back. So they got their congressman involved, and he started to look on as a hands-on politician. So meanwhile, though, Jim Jones is promoting Guyana as his perfect, farming commune. Look at all the food stuff. But what really happened was the major news networks would come down and interview him, and he would have everything staged, kind of like Stalin and Hitler did. They would just stage it, like, look at all these bananas, look at how good and happy everybody is. Yeah. And everybody was told, of course, to act happy and everything. So the news would report exactly what he said. I'm sure they were in cahoots. But they weren't expecting this whole thing with Congressman Leo Ryan. So relatives started to distribute packets and documents and affidavits in 1978 and press to the members of Congress. They started to be, relatives of the people that were down there started to make a fuss and start to go out. And in 1978, Jim Jones hired JFK conspiracy theorists Mark Lane and Donald Freed to help make the case that there was a conspiracy against him. It lost him more support politically. Yeah, well, that's another thing. Yeah, it starts going crazy. So here's a picture of some of the children in Jonestown. Just for you guys, if you want to have a visual of these poor kids that were dragged there.
And just a quick thing, look at the color of their skin.
Most of them are
That makes me
little black
so freaking
babies.
mad. That makes me so mad.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, Congressman Ryan, along with Jackie Spear, who was future congressman, he took the NBC camera crew with him, and they headed out to Guyana. They were just trying to see what was really going on because, people were going crazy. This article had already come out about how nuts things were with Jim Jones. And so they're like, we're going to go down there, check it out. They landed in Georgetown on November 15th. Then they flew to the Port Kaituma airstrip. And they were just going in there basically to see what was happening with Jones. They had no real plan. It's not like they were going to arrest him or anything like that. They just wanted to check it out because they were getting massive complaints from all the relatives. Like, people were motivated and they were acting in the United States because they knew something was up. Of course, when they arrived, everyone looked cheerful and happy, but there was like something not right. And eventually people started slipping notes. Yeah. Trying to slip notes that there was a problem behind Jim Jones' back. And saying, the notes basically said, we want to leave, we want to go. We don't want to be here. And so first it was to Vernon Gosney and Don Harris. They were NBC reporters. And then Congressman Ryan actually got attacked and stabbed that night. And apparently at first Jones doesn't protest people leaving. But Ryan leaves and he takes some people with him. He takes his entire crew. He takes off. He had just been stabbed and attacked by somebody there. And he's going back to the Kaituna airstrip. And when they leave, they think they're safe. Everything is fine. There's no problem. Jones is willing to let some people leave. Jones gets his thing he called the Red Brigade. Basically, it was his thugs with guns. He calls them to basically go to the Port Kaituna airstrip and gun down and murder the congressman and Jackie Spear. And that's exactly what happens. The gunmen showed up as they were boarding the plane. They shot and killed the congressman, Leo Ryan. They shot and killed Don Harris. They shot and killed Bob Brown, Greg Robinson, and Temple member Patricia Parks. Jackie Spear was left for dead, but she survived with 5 bullets shot into her. She's still alive today. And then, of course, after that happened.
So everybody got shot on both sides of the spectrum, right?
Well, after they shot and killed all these congressmen, that's when Jim Jones started to make everybody drink the Kool-Aid because he knew once they murdered the congressmen, they were done.
It was done. But why? Well, they murdered the congressman stuff, but they're still in South America. To murder anybody, done. I guess is bad.
It doesn't matter. He's right, murdered a U.S. congressman.
But this guy's a sicko, an absolute psycho, sicko, disgusting. Did he have siblings?
I don't think so. I think he might have been an only child. Yeah, and of course it was a worse mass murder. It's not a suicide. It was mass murder. Yeah. Anyone who says they didn't suicide, these people didn't have a choice by that time. So he had over 900 members. 260 of them were children. 913, including Jones, was the body count. They initially thought it was just over 400, but then of course they realized the bodies were stacked.
How they died was like the worst part. I'm sorry, I'm tearing up because I don't know what it is with this cult thing. Because I've done a lot of stuff with cult and had survivors and stuff on my show. Just Jim Jones, man, like he's like the most diabolical, evil
These are
person that has
pictures of
ever
it.
lived.
Yeah,
And
these
for
are pictures of it. Aerial
these
shots.
children had no choices. Like their parents, even the parent, like I cannot imagine injecting my child with the Kool-Aid.
Hmm.
No way. Like how brainwashers these people, and then it makes me want to dissect every person that was involved in this. Their ages, their birthdays. If they were linked to any political party or CIA or anything like that, like this is to do this to children.
Yeah.
It's like I can't. I don't have any other thing I can say. Like this hurts me. Like I get physically sick talking about Jim Jones.
Well, there's also a lot of talk about him being tied to Cuba and a lot of other communists. I'm not sure he was. It was said that he had planned to flee to Cuba before any of this went down. Like apparently the idea was he was talking about taking off to Cuba and getting out of Guyana even because he was pro-communist. I don't know how much truth that is. Oh yeah, I have stuff on people adoring him today, but was he in with Cuba? That sounds like something the CIA might have made up to cover up their traces. That, oh yeah, he was going to go to Russia. He was going to go to Cuba. I don't know. What do you think, Jer? Is anybody here? Is it
I'm
just
here.
me?
I'm just muted.
Okay.
What's the question?
I said they said that before that Jim Jones had done a lot of this, that he had all these plans to go to Cuba, Russia, or flee before this broke down. I have a suspicion that might be a CIA narrative made up.
Probably. He was already out of the country. What is he hiding from?
Well, I don't know. Maybe CIA had access to Guyana.
Yeah, but they had access to Cuba and Russia too. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like a narrative. I agree with you.
Sounds like a narrative to me.
Yeah.
It's like, why would he? That's what I said. Well, why would he go?
Yeah.
He was already kind of living like a king there. Well, a twisted king. And so the idea, what is really interesting, what makes me think of the CIA is this whole San Francisco thing. And it's hard when you're in the times to connect everything when you're in the chaos. It's easier in hindsight when everything's quiet down to look like, oh, look who else was in San Francisco. Haight-Ashbury happened. There's a lot of stuff happening in San Francisco. It's really interesting. Why do you think they would be? Why do you think San Francisco? Like, what's about San Francisco and the CIA? Is it just strategic coastal location, or is there some kind of satanic ritual thing? Is it beyond good and the mere
if I
physical?
put on my esoteric hat, I would say that the frequencies are right in that area of California for whatever they wanted to do.
Didn't they have like CIA have like Operation Midnight Climax in San Francisco? Like
They did.
yeah, there's
Mhm.
something with San Francisco with the climax and the elements and like the humidity. There's hardly any humidity in San Francisco,
Yep.
from what I know.
That's true.
Yeah, so like the airwaves, the I don't know, EMFs, whatever you want to call about it, like they have it's a playground.
Wow.
It's a
So
playground.
Operation Midnight Climax was a sort of sub operation of MK Ultra.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can't
No,
remember
it was a different MK program.
well, it's an MK, but it's a sub MK.
He
No,
based
no,
his
no.
plan. So
there are
here's
no.
what I'm reading here.
There's no
Gottlieb
sub
based his plan for MK Ultra and Operation Midnight Climax Office interrogation method. They're saying it was a sub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
MK Ultra was its own
It
program,
was. This was
Yeah.
sub in
and
San
all the
Francisco.
MK was just a designation for
Mhm.
for projects. There was like MK Ultra, Naomi, MK
Leonard.
Artichoke, Eleanor. There were a bunch.
Yeah.
MK is just a letter. I know people think it stands for mind control, but it does not.
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't stand for mind control. But Operation Midnight Climax was like a sub part of MK Ultra, and it dealt with mind control research. And I
Okay.
can't remember the details of it. I had a show on that maybe
So
5-6 years ago. I
it was
can't remember the details.
established in order to study the effects of LSD on non-consensual
LSD. There we
individual.
go.
Prostitutes on the CIA payroll were instructed to lure clients back to safe houses where they
Yep.
were surreptitiously plied with a wide range of substances, including LSD, and monitored behind one-way glasses. The prostitutes were instructed to use the post-coital questioning to investigate whether the victims could be convinced to involuntarily reveal secrets. Oh, like a honeypot. The victims were sometimes fed subliminal messages in an attempt to induce them to involuntary actions, including criminal activities such as robbery, assault, and assassination. There you go.
It's Hugh Hefner.
Wow.
Honeypot.
Wow. And make them feed them suggestions so they'll be like a killer.
Yeah, it was a sub. It was a sub of MK Ultra. But yeah, I remember this stuff now. I had a show on that like 7-8 years ago because of Laurel Canyon.
Yeah, that was all that rock and roll not Jim Jones, but the Doors and
Laurel Canyon. Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
I say Laurel. Sorry, I grew up on Laurel Avenue in downtown.
I live off of Laurel Road right up here.
Are you serious? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
I live next door. I'm like right next to Laurel, Florida.
So I save these. I can't find the group now, but I save this stuff for people who loved Jim Jones.
Crazy.
Jim Jones cult leader. They literally would show all his fashion sense and talk about how brilliant this is. This is really sick people.
This just shows you if you dress nice, you're good. If you are semi good looking, like this is like that Wade. What's that Wade guy? Wade Wilson that just got convicted in Florida. Like I even got tricked into a video of his. Like, what the heck? Why am I thinking this guy's good looking when he killed women down in Fort Myers?
Well,
like, but this is how these cult leaders. They gotta dress nice all the time. They gotta have some kind of funding to look good. And I think this guy looks good for the time era that he was in. And he resembled
he
Elvis,
100%
right?
does. Yeah, he 100% was fashionable.
You got to keep up the riz, baby.
But this reminds me of those women who get totally obsessed by, psychopaths in jail, and they marry them and they write letters and like, he really loves me. And they're like actually crazy, probably with a personality disorder themselves. Like you have to be nuts to like, she's dressing up like Jim Jones, or she's trying to. Well, I put little stuff in over their faces. So
look at the people in NXIVM. They were,
Oh, yeah.
It's just same thing for cults. This is ubiquitous amongst cults. They get Stockholm syndrome and fall in love with their leader, and this is nothing more than that.
But I have I think I have another picture. What was it? Let me see what it was.
It's just,
yeah. I bitched. So there's them 40. Okay, hey, it says 18. They said, here's what somebody wrote about Jonestown, the massacre. They said,
okay,
this was several years ago. They put 42 years ago, 917 people found peace and freedom in their own way, and one man found it alone with a gun. From that moment on, he was far away from all the most trusted ones and others, and they're far away from him forever. That's how it should be, a new beginning and a continuation in death for everyone. This is what someone's writing in this group. Numinous. And they're like, it reminds, and then he says, I would give my breath away. Like the fascination now and not yet. Like they're reframing the massacre into this, they all found their own way in bull. Life is an illusion or myth to the dead because they've seen it all and they know more than anyone. These people are sick. And of course, I was totally.
Go ahead, Melissa. I'm sorry.
No, I was like, found peace and freedom in their own way. They were murdered with poison. You can go listen to the audio of the last known 45 minutes of it and hear children screaming in pain.
Yes.
I think it's disturbing that you rewrite history in such a way to make it sound magical and positive.
But
That's
see,
exactly
that's
what I
what
put.
narcissist psychopaths do. Like, oh, it's not that bad. Over time, I didn't do that. Or they gaslight, they shift blame, they do all this stuff, and they rewrite history in their head, and they get to the point where, oh, well, what I did wasn't wrong at all. Like and these people that follow them have to have a personality disorder, which is probably like bipolar or borderline
Mm-hmm.
personality disorder or something. This is all mental health. The people
Well,
that follow it.
I think some of the people who follow Jim Jones may have been really weak, codependent. They
Oh,
may have
yeah,
not had a
codependent.
personality disorder,
Absolutely.
but once you go through that abuse, you probably will have a personality disorder.
Well,
Um,
but
Go ahead.
it stems to family, though. Like, what was these people's environments growing up too? Because a lot of times, a lot of these were adult individuals. I don't see any teenagers in this. I see adult individuals mostly in their 30s and 40s. So,
Yep.
what was their environment raised? And most likely, they had a parent that had some kind of high functioning mental disorder too. We
Hmm.
know a lot more about narcissism now, um, because of ways of communication, study and stuff. We also know narcissistic people don't go to therapy, so the numbers are high in that. So, what were these people facing? What were they growing up in? And
Yeah.
it gave them to be easy goats. I mean, I don't know what you want to talk about, to be easily manipulated to follow and drink the
Well,
Kool-Aid.
and look, the whole culture was propping this guy up at the time. And this
Yeah.
third one here, I mean, look at this. This is somebody said, they literally posted these pictures. They said, a year ago, I completed my Holy Trinity art
Oh
project.
god.
Part one, they created it's like a perfume bottle they've made, and it's supposed to have samples of
But
Jim's blood, piss, and decomposition fluid,
disgusting.
samples of Jim's semen, fat, and chyle, samples of Jim's holy water, hair dye, and cyanide potion. That's what all these pictures
So
represent.
here's the thing. When's the media gonna be held accountable for all this crap?
Never.
When are they gonna be held accountable?
We have to hold them accountable. Because they're
Like
sure as
it
hell not
Good luck
like
with
that's
that.
Emily, that's like asking the narcissist to tell the truth about themselves. The
Mhm.
media is not going to do that. They're liars and psychopaths, and they're probably individuals in there who aren't, but they're easy to manipulate, just like cult followers.
But it seems to me with Jim Jones and some other cult followers back in the day, to get that big and to get that well known, they had to have the media, period. Period.
Oh
Now,
yeah, he did. It wasn't the media was all on his side. They weren't saying anything, or they're promoting him good, or they're trying to promote Jonestown and everything good, but they couldn't lie anymore. And so I think they've created a narrative that, like, he was just this crazy lunatic, and they, conveniently left out their position in it, the CIA's possible position in it, other politicians, position in it. They just made it all about Jim Jones. And yeah, he's evil and he's responsible, but he had a lot of help and support and engineering getting there. That's my belief.
He graduated from Butler University, so I might, like, wanna go through the Butler University rabbit hole later on, because I feel like some other ministers, have graduated from there too.
Yeah, well, and he was heavily, like I said, influenced by other ministers. Somebody had
Father
mentioned
Divine, we gotta have a
early,
show on Father Divine. We gotta do a show on Father
somebody had mentioned somebody else that he, oh, here it is. Here's the comment from earlier. It was from Wooby Funtime.
John
He
Collins.
said, John Collins had a great documentary on YouTube about William Branham. He was a guy who influenced Jim Jones. So
Okay, I'll
that's
look that
another
up.
person, which I don't know a lot about him.
I don't
So
ha
there's
This
a
is the
lot
first
of
time I heard
people.
of him.
Yeah. So that's let me Google that name and I'll just tell you who he was.
But, do these cults
He
live
was a
today?
minister. William Marion Branham was also a minister. He was a faith healer and a Christian minister who initiated post World War II healing.
Well,
He died in 1965 in Amarillo, Texas, and he was born in Kentucky.
Oh, well, we love Kentucky over here. But we're poor. We're poor land here. There's a lot of stuff that goes on here that people don't understand. So my thing is, like, we got the honey pot operations. We got all kinds of other stuff that's going on with all these cults and stuff. Does this stuff exist today? Are we going to have a Jim Jones incident in the next couple of years or something? Like, what's going on today in the CIA? Have they moved on? I feel like anytime the CIA, the FBI releases documents to the public and we can read about, they have way moved on to something else. Or these mega churches, which in my opinion, yes, they are cults. These mega churches, we got Joel Osteen, we got Kevin Furnick, we got Hillsong, which is full of corruption, and cult like activities. I mean, are they still existing today, and we're just not recognizing it as that? We're classifying as it as religion, right? There's that fine line I talked about earlier with cult and religion. Like, are these people still existing today, or has the CIA used their drug, their MK Ultra stuff, and they've moved on?
Go ahead, Jer. I'm waiting for
What
Jer.
was it? I'm sorry, I'm looking at chat. What was the question? What was?
Does,
what do you want me to
do these people like Jim Jones, do they still exist today, or has the CIA moved on to other projects, or are they still furthering this kind of thing?
I'm sure there are cults that they're involved with, but I don't know. Who knows?
I think they're involved with a lot of digital stuff, online stuff.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. We've been in. I think we've been in a quiet war for at least 5 or 6 years. I think QAnon is CIA. It's
fifth generational warfare is what it's called.
Yeah, I think we've
war
been
for
in a
the
quiet war for a while. CIA. Well, QAnon. Let's talk about QAnon. QAnon is a cult, in my opinion. It's Operation Trust.
Well, I think there's a lot of like I say, online, but I mean they're survey. I mean, we don't even need the cults. We don't even need. We just survey ourselves. We buy the Alexas. We buy all the shit. We're just like, hey, watch us. Here we are. We're already controlled. We are controlled by AI. That's the cult leader.
That's true. AI, artificial intelligence.
Absolutely. I don't know if we're controlled by AI, but our lives are definitely manipulated by them. And that's more in the form of advertising and social media interactions.
That's the next god that they want. They want us worshiping a one world religion god. That's it. They want everybody hooked into the system. And I don't know who that icon is or who the figure is. Maybe it's not born yet, but it's going to be something.
It's going to be an AI.
It's Pope. It's the Pope. It's freaking Catholic.
No,
it's not the Pope. Fuck the Pope. Pope's.
It's going to be something bigger than that.
Dude, he was using hologram. He was using hologram. He is interterrestrial, in my opinion.
He has exposed himself as a globalist commie, just like the rest of them, and
people don't understand he's a king too, and he overrides.
I don't think he's going to choose it. I think AI is going to grow. It's going to.
No,
so AI,
he's the
guys.
First Jew, I'm sorry, first Jew Pope.
No, he's not a Jew.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. He's a Jesuit.
Okay, guys. I think what's going to happen is we're not even going to have a choice on who it is, because I think AI at some point is going to start. Basically, they're siphoning all the shit from us, and there's a lot of shit from humans that we can't even comprehend. And that all that stuff that it's sucking from us all the time, that's going to be the god. It's going to be like a chaos of what do they call it? Like a legion of crazy. It's going to be a god, because it's literally, we're creating it. It's like that movie. What's that movie? Oh my god. It's like oh, my husband, help me out. It's that one. It's post World War II, and they go to this Eastern European town, and they find this evil creature under this structure, religious structure. The Nazis break in, and this big creature comes out, and they said, who are you? He says, I am you. So this horrible god creature is all the stuff we put into it, and it's like AI is amassing this one world religion based on all the stuff it sucks from us. That's what I think is going to happen. It's pretty sci-fi, but I'm going to put my money on it.
What's the name of that movie?
The Keep.
The Keep.
I've watched
It's a
that.
good
That's like
movie.
an old 80s movie, isn't it?
Yeah. It was based on the books better, but the Keep, it's called The Keep. It's got oh, he played Gandalf, that actor.
Ian
And
McKellen,
it's got Ian
Did he
McKellen, and
die?
it's
Scott
got
Glenn, Gabriel Byrne,
yep, exactly, that's it.
Bruce Payne.
Yeah, it's confusing because they chopped it up. It was supposed to be longer. It gets a little confusing. The book's better, but it's interesting. It's older, but I like it. I like that
I
movie.
think I read that book.
Yeah. But I think AI is going to be like this kind of demony thing, and it's going to be all
Ezekiel and
stuff
stuff
it
talks about
absorbs from
AI.
us. What's that?
Like this deals with Bible prophecy and stuff. Ezekiel and stuff talks about
Yeah.
AI.
So Jim
And,
Jones will be
and it
nothing.
talks about CERN. This all deals with CERN too, the will within a will and everything. And like this deals with the 200 fallen angels, which is the Pope is part of it. That talk and there's a pyramid. Oh my gosh, I can't remember where the 200 meet every year. In the Book of Enoch, let me just tell you this: the Book of Enoch that's removed from the Bible. There's 18 books that the Catholic Church removed from the Bible.
It wasn't removed.
It was
It was.
removed.
It was just never added.
No, it was
It's a difference.
removed. No, it was removed because I have modern day Bibles here. My 1811 Bible that I have that gave me my Great Awakening. It includes the Book of Enoch, and everybody go read that. Go read the Book of Enoch. Read the Book of Jubilees that was also excluded from the Bible. My Great Awakening happening. Also, you got to understand that the modern day Bibles came from Lucist Publishing was also called Lucifer Publishing from 1941 on. It's been highly manipulated. Get you a Bible, and I also don't really truly trust a Bible, but unless it's earlier than 1800s. But the earliest one I could get was an 1811 Bible. Get a Bible closest to 1800 as you possibly can. That my Great Awakening, I went to Bible college and everything. My Great Awakening happened when I bought that Bible and I read it, started reading it in 2020 when everything was closed down. It sat on my shelf here behind me. If you ever watch my shows, I have a bookshelf behind me for a year and a half because I bought it. God told me to buy it. I never opened it. Started opening it. All the Bible books are included in it. Book of Enoch, Book of Jubilees. Read it. Both of those. They're super important. 18 books, 18 or 19 books of the Bible was removed. It's all included from 1800 till about 1900, and they start removing them. There's a reason. So
Yeah,
sorry.
it was too weird to be in the Bible.
No, well, it's written, it was put in there, and this was an opinion from a pope. And if you want
Well,
to watch about the history about the popes and how murderous they are and how disgusting they are and how manipulated, HBO has a series. It's about 8 to 10 shows about the history of the pope. Go watch that. And the
well,
pope is the king, and he has a hierarchy over the royals. We
what
have 3 popes. We have the white pope, the gray pope, and the red pope, or might be the black pope.
Well, that the thing is, most of the stuff was PR. They would put things out that they thought, like cherubs. They made them look like little chubby
Oh, that's not what
arrows
they are.
because it was about what they thought people, it's just about PR, what they thought people would think would look good. So I'm assuming most of their choices was about PR and promotion and what they thought would look good,
And
would read good. Just
talking
like,
about talk about cherubs, and I know this is
mm.
this is
Well, it's way off of
way
Jim
off
Jones.
Jim
We might
Jones.
want to do that. I'm going to
It
tie it up
is.
pretty quick here because we're
Yeah,
almost at 2
I'll say
hours.
this status, and then we can tie it up. But I'll just tell you this: go look at the freaking Catholic European sculptures of children around male organs, and we now know child pedophilia, all that stuff with the Catholic Church. It's disgusting. It's terrible, and that's all I'm going to say. And we can tie it up because
All right.
honestly, with Jim Jones, I'm just gonna go back on here. Many children lost their lives. Almost 300 children lost their lives in this out of 900 people, right? So that's a quarter of it, and
Third.
it's the third. It is disgusting. It was awful. It's the worst, in my opinion, um, cult leader that ever was successful, if you want to call that success. The children in it all was disgusting, and the parents that did that to their kids, like, I could never. I don't care how brainwashed I was. I could never harm my child. Period.
Yeah,
It had to be
it's
messed up.
pretty. If you harm your child, you obviously don't like yourself. You're literally killing your future and everything. You have no faith. You have no sense of yourself, or your family, or anything. I mean, and that's what happens to weak people. That's what's happening to our whole generation now. The stuff that was small with Jim Jones, and this is why I believe the CIA was involved in this, and doing this on small scale. We see it on large scales with people now, maybe not exactly the same as Jim Jones, but like they don't even care. They don't want to procreate. They do the most abhorrent stuff. They're all pro-communist. They're all they think Jesus and religion is totally bad, and they think family is horrible, and capitalists are all evil, and maybe some of them are, maybe some of them aren't, but you see this whole kind of way of manipulation. Like, it's almost like it's just Tuesday for the Democrats, or maybe the Republicans as well. And you see this
Oh.
everywhere. And I think they were doing this stuff on the small scale because you have to, before you actually start promoting it in the culture and carrying it out in terms of other cults, in terms of TV shows, in terms of making it normalized and making people getting used to some of these crazy ideas that they otherwise, if you would have just put it out to them right away, like, here you go, they would have refused it. And that's exactly how a cult leader does it. He lures you in slowly over time. Well, that's how our government and our intel agencies do it as well. And that's all I've got to say. And we're going to tie it up. I'm going to let you guys do a little last comment that you want. And we're going to tie it up because I got to go to bed, guys.
I know,
I got to work in the morning.
Well, this has been fun. Time goes by so fast. I'll let Jer go first.
It's been very interesting. I learned a lot. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on and talking in the comments. And you were pretty quiet this time, I know.
I don't know a whole lot about Jim Jones other than, what I saw on the news. So I just am not a powerful resource of information here.
That's okay. You can always have an opinion.
No. And I have
All right,
many.
Emily.
My opinion is Jim Jones is the most terrible, disgusting cult leader of everyone. Like, he takes the what do we want? I don't want to even give him an award, but he's the most disgusting human being I've ever met, because obviously a lot of the people that were victims of his cult were children. I do still believe this cult issue still exists today, and whether we recognize it as a cult or not, these people are still broadcast on media. They're still broadcast on all kinds of Christian platforms, since he's a pastor or minister and stuff. I highly encourage anybody that is following any of these mainstream ministers that I used to follow, please get you a Bible that's closest to 1800 as you can, and start praying to the Holy Spirit, to God, to reveal the truth to you, because um, a lot of these people, and the quotes that even Jim Jones that you were playing in the very beginning of this, I've heard from Kenneth Copeland, Jesse Duplantis, and some other people that I used to follow heavily and loved, and gave money to their ministry. Stop giving money to them. Tithing is not what you think it is. Be a giver. You don't have to tithe to the church. And I just highly encourage you all to get a Bible close to 1800 as you can, because I was part of all of this. Went to Bible college. I could have easily been influenced into one of these cults back when I was younger. I'm glad that God showed me the truth, and I'm thankful for my Bible from 1811.
All right.
That's it.
Well, That's fantastic. Thank you, Emily. I just want to remind everybody before we go to subscribe on the Rumble channel, Gen X on X. Go to the website, genxnewsx.com. That's all the links. You'll find all the links to the live streams, which is X, Rumble, YouTube, basically, where you can watch the live stream. You'll also find the audio podcast versions, which is hosted on Podbean, but you're going to find it on all the major platforms like iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, all of that stuff will have it. But you can go to the website, genxnewsx.com, to find all those links, or just search out on your podcast platform, Gen X News. You'll find us there and all of the fun episodes. Next week, I have an artist coming on. I have to switch it around. She could only come on Friday. She's going to talk about her pro-America music that she makes. I've met her on X, and so I'm going to have her coming in on Friday. We're going to talk about pro-America, her songs and what inspires her to fight against the globalists. And yeah, that's what's going on right now. And I thank you guys for tuning in and listening. I hope that wasn't too jumbled. And if you're just joining, go back to the beginning, watch it, because I go through a Jim Jones timeline and you can listen to everything about Jim Jones. I thank you